All right. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. It is Friday. We are back with another episode of Dad Talk. And today I'm excited to tell you that I actually have a dad for Dad Talk. It's been a while, as somebody in the comments noted, since we've had a dad on. And today we're going to bring on Adam Maxwell. He's going to join us. He's going to talk about being a dad. He's going to talk about his faith, his calling, his new podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of good things. So please give a warm welcome for Adam as he joins the show. Did I get it? There it is. Adam, good morning. How are
Good
you?
morning. Good morning. Good. How are you today?
I am very well. And I do want to tell people really quickly, you might have been like, hey, that's not the normal intro, like there was no intro video and all that. There's just some technical things that I'm working through. So bear with me, but we will keep the show going until I work out the specifics. And that is definitely not my normal music, but I was trying to adjust, what do they say? Adapt and overcome. That's what we're doing here. So, Adam, good morning. Tell us who you are, sir.
I'm Adam Maxwell. I'm currently a general contractor and carpenter, and I am a new podcaster. I just started Undivided podcast. I currently dropped my new trailer onto Spotify, and I plan to get some new episodes out pretty soon. I'm living in southeast Minnesota. It is currently negative 24 degrees, real temperature. Yeah. So my door was frozen shut this morning as I was trying to get out to my studio. So
Wow.
I'm looking forward to this interview, and I'm looking forward to my new journey in podcasting. I do love to be a carpenter, but it's kind of starting to hurt my body these days. So moving
Right.
on.
I hear you. So, it's interesting. One of the, I don't know if you noticed, the logo has a tie and a saw blade. I enjoy a little woodworking on the side. I don't make anything, like I don't have a channel or anything like that for it. And that's just more of a hobby that I get to when I can. But
Mhm.
I find it very cathartic to kind of get away from all the screens and the business of life and just go out and, sometimes spend 2 hours trying to cut a single piece of wood in a particular shape that I want or whatever, and then throw it away because I didn't.
Yeah.
So, um, so you're a contractor. So you said you're a general contractor.
Yeah, so I started my business. It's Maxwell Construction Services about 11 years ago.
Mhm.
But I started as just a handyman and worked my way up.
Mm.
And I had, several employees, and then I decided that it was consuming my life. So I drew back on it, and now I just cruise around in a sweet Ford Transit van doing a lot of bathroom remodels and handicap accessibility stuff.
Okay.
I really like that side of the job because there's a lot of very grateful people that are in need of handicap accessibility. So it's really brought my heart back to construction.
Mhm.
As you may or may not know, when you're building large projects, sometimes it gets a little daunting, and customers can sometimes be a little difficult. But and that's where going into this, I'm really enjoying it a lot. But
Mhm.
like I said, I can't wait to get into my new avenue of podcasting so I can reach even more people.
Right. Yeah. This man's humble. He's like customers sometimes. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes.
Uh, okay. So you've got a new podcast. You're a dad. Let's start with the dad stuff.
Yeah.
We'll swing into the podcast. So tell us about being a dad. I think you mentioned that you have two children. One's 19, and then one is significantly younger. So tell us a little bit about that. You don't have to like give their names or
Oh,
anything
sure.
specific.
Yeah.
Just like the fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was 20 years old when.
Sir, you have seemed to have frozen all of a sudden. It must be the weather up there in Minneapolis. So I don't know if you can still hear me, but you're completely frozen. So we will work to get him back. It's either it's the Minneapolis weather or I don't know. Maybe ISIS just broke into his house. But so we'll give him a second to reconnect or see what happens. Uh, he's gone, but he'll be back in a moment. There we go. Let's get him back in here. All right.
I'm
There,
back.
sir. Yes, a little frozen there. It's okay. Must be the weather.
It has to be the weather. I'm thinking that the cold weather froze our internet, so that's pretty sweet. Anyway, so I was 20 years old. I was a little bit of an animal. I like to get out and party. I grew up in a college town, La Crosse, Wisconsin, to be exact. And then I ended up, becoming a father at what to me was a young age,
Mhm.
uh, and it changed my life. I went from running around lost to finally having some purpose in life. And I couldn't have been more excited once it sunk in, right? Like even when you're expecting to have a child, sometimes it takes a minute for that to sink in for a guy.
Right.
So I ended up, I was working in food and beverage, and I ended up going to college for law enforcement, and I was helping raise my son with his mother, and her and I just couldn't quite see eye to eye on a lot of things, and we ended up separating, which was extremely difficult.
Mhm.
But I do know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes that takes 18 years, just so you know. But the one thing that I made sure of was to be in his life as much as I possibly could, take that time with him, do fun things with him, and help him grow into the man he is today. And I also have a younger son, Graham. He's 10, and I I'm married to his mother. We've been married for it's going to be 12 years in February,
Mhm.
and they have had very different lives due to the home situation. But it's been pretty great being able to be in Graham's life every single day, as opposed to my older son. It was like every other weekend and holidays for the
Mhm.
longest time. And the hardest part about that is that you want to be there more, or you should want to be there more, and you just don't always get that. So you got to take advantage of the time that you do have and don't waste it.
Right.
That's what I can certainly say about that.
That's good. It's like I don't have that experience and nor anything like it. So it's always interesting to hear it from the perspective of somebody that has experienced it. I myself am divorced, but we have my current wife and I. We have one child. He's
Mhm.
6, and I so like I'm doing everything. It feels like backwards because I know a lot of people have their children when they're a little bit on the younger side. We had ours in our early 40s, so
Mhm.
we kind of did things kind of out of order in a sense, but it is true that there is something about having children that changes you. And, maybe not everybody, but I think the vast majority of men and, women can speak for themselves, but, fathers out there, they can, agree and say, yeah, I've become something different. And it even happens at the older age, right? Because you might think like, well, DL, you were 42 when you had your kid, and so therefore you were pretty well set in life. But no, actually, I had some changes. So speaking of changes, what kind of things changed for you with your first son, and then what kind of things changed with your second one? Like with the experiences, well, with all the experiences that you've had.
Well, like I said, with my first son, I was relatively young,
Hmm.
20 and 21 when he was born, but 20 when I found out. And I mean, I had to change literally everything about my life, right? Like get a new apartment, lose a majority of my friends, if you'll call them that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That was probably one of the hardest things. Was you thought you had all these friends, and then you have a kid early in life, and then blam, you don't have anybody showing up or coming over because you're the one with the baby,
Right.
which is fine. I mean, you know where your real friends are at that point, right? And
Right.
so I worked hard at just changing my whole lifestyle. Basically, it's not that easy, I guess, but I knew that he needed more out of me, right? Like I said, I didn't have a purpose. I was just kind of flailing through life like so many people are these days. And he came along and it really grounded me, and I just took off running. And like I say, when his mother and I separated, it was extremely difficult. It's exactly what I said I was never going to do, because I come from a split family,
Hmm.
and I promised him when he was a baby, this will never happen, But you can't predict the future. But what you can do, instead of predicting the future, is work towards a better future with your kid. Do a better job than you had done for you, right?
Hmm.
So even if it wasn't perfect, in the end, it ended up being our perfect, right? The one big challenge was, once we did split up, was she moved. She was about 2 hours away, and so every other weekend we would travel, and I'd pick him up halfway, and then on holidays as well. And at a certain age, he's like, "Dad, I'm tired of riding in the car." Well, I'm just so tired of riding in the car.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, I feel you, bro.
Right.
Try to have to fill up the gas tank when you're broke, you know what I mean? But I didn't say any of that to him.
Sure. Sure.
So I was like, how can I make him feel good about this, right? And so I started doing math on it. And it was later on, when he was like 12 or 13 years old. And I did some rough math, and I found that we had driven halfway to the moon together. Um, and I let him know that. And after that, he had no problem whatsoever,
Mm.
with that drive, because he realized, and I realized even too, thinking about it, how much commitment there actually is, even though you're not there every day, and making sure that you are reaching out. And if, say, the significant or ex significant other is difficult, you just got to be the shield, right?
Right.
Don't let him know how you feel about her, or vice versa.
Right.
Because if you let them into that, it really can damage them. And I think that people don't realize that. And the other thing with that drive was, there was no electronics, right? It was always talking. I made sure that I made up for that time that I didn't have him on that drive every single time, so that I was making sure that we connected, and
Right.
it worked. And I can say for sure that I'm not sure if I did it right, but it worked. So he and
Awesome.
I are very close at this point in time. He struggles a little bit, but when I was 19, I struggled too.
Right. So somebody points out in the chat, they said, nice analogy with driving halfway to the moon.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
that's pretty awesome. So let me ask, so your kids are, your two boys are far enough apart, because you just mentioned, like, hey, there was no electronics. So we had to do everything the old fashioned way,
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
least old fashioned for us.
yeah, for sure.
We had to talk to each other in your face, and like look at each other and stuff. So your oldest then could say, well, back in my day, to your youngest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah, for
technology has
sure.
moved so fast that it allows him to say what our parents once told us, back in my day.
Yeah.
So that's funny. Okay, so you've got did when you had your kid, and you're like, all right, I have some realizations about, some ways that I can be the father that I want to be. How did that impact your work? Did it make you, like, work harder, or like, or not at all? Like, was it more,
Oh,
hey, it changed me as a person, but not really my work habits?
no, I actually, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I've always kind of worked hard, I
Hmm.
guess. I mean, like, from a young age, I had a little lawn mowing business when I was like 12, and I worked in restaurants from age 14 to 28, and various other things. I tried. I didn't know what I wanted to do every day, right? So I tried a
Right.
couple other things. I was a salesman for a little while. It was awful. Hated it. uh,
I
I like
feel
to
you on
talk to
that.
people, but I don't like to swindle them into buying all new windows for their house, right?
Right.
But it pushed me to work even harder than I thought I could, right? Because before, yeah, I worked for a paycheck to pay rent, to buy beer or whatever,
Hmm.
at that time. And then he came along, and I'm like, okay, I got to shift gears, and I got to do something. So I went to college. I wasn't really planning on it, but I went to
Hmm.
college for law enforcement, and I graduated in 2008. It pushed me to try to excel. The second year, I was class president, and all these fun things. I could give you my credentials, but I ended up not getting a job, because '08 was the housing market crash,
Hmm. Hmm.
and nobody was retiring, and it was just, every single position that was available, it was just flooded with applicants. And so after 2 years, you got to kind of give up on it. But either way, so after 2 years, I was like, all right, I'm not going to be a police officer. And sometimes now I'm like, well, whew, they dodged that bullet, no pun intended, right? But
Hmm.
And so then I decided to get back into food and beverage, and I ended up, when I was 24, 25 years old, uh, purchasing a restaurant with two other fellas, and
Mm.
we ran the restaurant.
Uh-oh, it looks like he's froze up again right in the middle of the good story about the restaurant. But no worries, folks. He will be back just in a moment, and we'll get him back up on the screen. So while we have this moment, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of help remind you guys to go check out his new website. He has a podcast, which we will talk about here in just a moment, called Undivided. And when he comes back, we'll talk about his upcoming podcast that he's starting and what motivated him to get that. But for the moment, here he is. All
Back.
right, sir. Yes, sir. You're back. All
I'm
right. So you
gonna.
were telling us about the restaurant that
Yeah.
you and a couple friends started or opened up.
Yep. So we kind of took it over from a gentleman. We all worked for him, and he was tired of the stuff or whatever. And I don't want to get too far into this because it's, tracking off from talking about being a dad, but it has something to do with it.
Hmm.
Because I found, the restaurant business, it takes a lot of your life. If anybody's ever been in it,
Hmm.
if you're really truly involved at the top or own it, every single moment of your life is consumed by it. And so I got about 4 years in, and I was unable to really afford to truly live, and make the journey to get my son, and it was just impeding on my life. So I had to quit doing that, and start over, kind of. Um, and because of Preston, right? Like, that was the motivating factor of getting out. I could have
Hmm.
survived off of peanut butter sandwiches every single day, if it wasn't for him being around, right? So I got out of that, and I got back into working for another big restaurant in the La Crosse area, and I stuck with that for a while, and it allowed me to be able to spend that time with my son. But
Hmm.
it was rough after that because I was broke. I had nothing. I had to sell my car to pay rent, and I had my apartment, and I had to ride a bicycle to and from work every single day, for almost an entire year. And we're in the Midwest, so it does snow, and riding a bike in the snow is no fun. I can tell you that. So I would
Hmm.
have to borrow somebody's car to go get my son every other weekend. I still took that time and made sure he didn't know anything was wrong, right? He had no idea that dad didn't even have a vehicle, or he didn't, have whatever. So I had to build myself back up. I met my wife in that time period. We were dating. We've been together for almost 17 years total. On and off, there was a couple little hiccups there, but
Hmm.
we figured it out. And she also helped drive me to become a better person as well, by example, right? Like, she wasn't cracking a whip on me and trying to tell me who to be,
Right, right.
but she helped me become a better person as well. And then we got back together and moved to Rochester, Minnesota. We got married, and then we had Graham. So once Graham came along, I had already kind of seen it. I've already
Hmm.
been a dad for a little while, but it was refreshing to be able to tuck him in every night and
Hmm.
read him those books, and be there for him, more than I was for Preston. Sometimes I feel a little guilty, um, because Graham kind of has, more of me than Preston ever did. But you just got to let him know that you love him and that you'll never give up on him.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love it. And somebody asked real quick. They said, "Oh, I have to click a different button here." They said, "Where is it? What kind of food? What kind of restaurant did you where you start again? Were there any particular type of restaurants that you were drawn to?"
Well, it's a in the restaurant business. If you are in it, it's kind of, school of hard knocks, right?
Mhm,
So I worked at several just to kind of get different cuisine and stuff. You know what I mean?
mhm.
But generally speaking, most of the restaurants in the Midwest are pretty vanilla. I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
They don't get too crazy. People uh, don't really like to get outside of like a nice steak and potatoes, around
Mm,
here. You get into the cities, that's different, right? You get a little
right.
more culture there. But I was in La Crosse, so um, I worked at several different restaurants to learn several different cuisine. And our establishment was it was a standard bar and grill, but everything made from scratch,
Mm,
down to the pizza dough and all the sauces. And I mean, we even cut our own potato chips for the
Oh, wow.
baskets. Oh yeah, I created a machine called the Tater Master 5000. It was a meat slicer, and I put a piece of PVC and clamped it on and dropped potatoes into it, and it just burp, 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 kicked them out. It was pretty cool. I was proud of that invention. I didn't go anywhere with it though. So, but
That's
yeah,
funny.
we did burgers and pizza and stuff like that, but everything was from scratch. And you know, you had your prime rib night and your
Mhm.
Friday night fish. That's a big one in the Midwest. I'm not sure if everybody understands that, but and cheese curds. You got to
Mhm.
have your hand bettered cheese curds. So that's kind of where we're at. But my final job was at a restaurant called Sante's in Rochester, and they were like a Spanish style tapas bar and wine bar,
Mhm.
and that place was incredible. I really miss cooking, but I get to do it at home for my family anyway. So,
Right.
and I don't know if anybody knows, but if you're in the restaurant business and your wife and your family aren't in it with you, it usually ends catastrophically. So I'm pretty glad that I got out of there, and then I went into construction when I was 28, and I've been doing that ever since.
Fun. I want to remark on the whole. I think you called it the potato chip 5000 or
Yeah, the
potato master or whatever.
Tater Master
Tater Master
5000.
5000.
Yeah.
Because it immediately made me think. I was like, what is it about men and coming up with, inventions and then throwing 5,000 at the end of it? Because I have what I jokingly call my leaf bagger 5,000.
Yeah.
It's basically PVC pipe that is, in a rectangle with legs on it, and then I just put a plastic bag over it, and then the bag can drape down onto the ground, and
Nice.
then I take a bungee, and then I wrap the bungee around it to kind of hold it tight, and then when I have to scoop up leaves and bag them, that's how I scoop them up with a shovel and then bag them, and so I call it my leaf bagger 5,000. So,
Hey, look at
you know
there. You know, I don't know where it came from. I mean, it is though too, right? Like I've heard other people use that or that phrasing, but
yeah, it must be something to the 5,000 that makes the invention that much better.
because it's
So,
awesome. It's just
yeah,
a biggish number, you know.
right. So that's too funny. Okay, so you've got these 2 boys and you've had 2 different experiences with them. Other than more like, say, the like that internal emotional frustration of like, on one hand, you're like, "Man, I wish I was able to give more to the one son, but I'm also really blessed to give to this one." Are there like Are there other changes that you've observed yourself between like the 2 boys or maybe the 2 relationships that you observed along the way? And the reason I'm asking this is I know that there are guys out there that are, that may experience, have a similar experience. Maybe they'll go through a separation, or maybe they'll have a fairly sizable gap between 2 children. Now, for us, it's unlikely because we're in our late 40s. So a second child is unlikely. So I'm
Mhm.
just curious, if you're like, oh, the second one came around and I started realizing this about myself, or I started doing this, or what have you.
Well, I guess with the age gap, I think the number one thing that I try to do, because I have a younger brother as
Mhm,
well. He's 10 years younger than me. It was from my mom's second marriage,
mhm,
and we're not close, and it's unfortunate. You know, I mean, various reasons. Life's busy. We live far away from each other, and we just never connected. He and my mom moved away for a while, and so there just wasn't that connection. But what I really tried to do with Preston and Graham is I really tried to um, get them to connect, right? Like
mhm.
not try not to force it, right? Like I'm like you must play with each other, right? But
Right, right.
like go do things together with them, right? So that they can develop a connection, and that older brother can kind of break through and be a mentor to the younger brother. And that doesn't always go as planned, right? Like, and when they have that gap, you know, sibling rivalry where you kind of beat on each other, right?
Mhm,
Like that 10-year gap kind of makes it difficult because you know all of a sudden you got this much older kid beating on a little kid,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
It just doesn't work out. So
Right.
that sibling rivalry thing isn't even hardly there either, right? I remember one time that we were at a beach and we were just hanging out. We were doing photos, family pictures. Gotta love those. And Preston was out in the water and Graham was just a little guy, and he grabs a rock and he throws this rock and hits Preston, bing, right in the back of the head. And
Wow.
he turns around, he's like, whoa, and he was like walking over like he was going to throttle him. But, he really stepped back and gained his composure. I said, throw him in the water. You know what I mean? Like, chuck him out there. You got to
Right.
get him back, let him know there's a repercussion. But I think I really focused on trying to get them to bond
Mhm.
more than anything. And I guess I took advantage of the time that I did have with Graham, right? I read those stories at night. I took and did more stuff with him. And again, that's where you feel a little guilty. But at the same time, I did everything I possibly could for Preston at that time,
Right.
right? So you gotta be easy on yourself.
Mhm.
A person is their worst critic, right? You look in the mirror and you see every blemish, and we need to step back a little bit, dim the lights, and not be so critical on ourselves.
I agree. I think it's worth, if you, I think most parents are generally good parents,
Yeah,
right? Like there are some bad ones out there and there are some absolutely awful ones, but I think most parents are good parents. And I think it's always wise, when you're critiquing yourself to step back and say, let me remind myself of the good things that I've done. And not so that we get a big head so much as just we keep perspective and we don't beat ourselves up. It looks like he might have froze. Either that or he's sleeping. I'm not really sure which one. I don't think my story was that tiring, but I believe he is frozen. We'll get him back in here. Apologies for that, folks. But we will get him back, and we'll hear more about his experiences with his sons. We will also, actually, I was just getting ready to shift over and talk about his podcast. And so as soon as he gets back in, we will talk about that. So here he is. All
ta-da!
right.
I'm
Ta-da.
back.
Where did I cut off for you?
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. Well, I
I'm
was just
terrible.
saying I think it's worthwhile for parents to take a step back
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
kind of put some perspective so that they're not beating themselves up. And we can do that with virtually anything, right? Like your
yeah,
job, a small project, you can just beat yourself up continuously. But I think that most parents are good. Most parents want to do good, and most children probably see their parents as good, except for when they're in trouble.
yeah, for
So,
sure. And I think that's a major one too. Like you say, people punishing their kids, right? I mean, you don't need to hit them. I mean, if they do something crazy, a little swat to the butt to, correct or whatever, like they're going to run into traffic, you want them to remember that, right? Like,
right.
don't do that. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt or be killed or whatever. But you know, both of my sons, I wouldn't say I'm excitingly strict, but I have high standards for a young man being a gentleman,
Mhm.
treating his mother with absolute respect, and I mean even to the point of like my older son's mom, like her and I, we don't really talk ever, and we don't really like each other, and that's okay. But I don't need to, I still expect him to treat his mother with respect. I mean, if
Right.
he ever tries to badmouth her, I'm like, no, 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 no. You need to respect your mom. Yeah, and we beat ourselves up so much when we do punish them, when they're crying and when they're, so
Mhm.
sad because we took away their iPad or whatever it may be. Um, they don't hardly remember that stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they don't remember because there's 90% good, right? Like we always forget, like there's so much good that happens every single day out there
Right.
that we forget because they show us all the bad all the time.
Right.
90 for every bad action, and I'm just making these numbers up, but I mean, tell me I'm wrong. There every 100 actions of good, there's a couple actions of bad out there. We forget about all the good deeds that are done,
Mhm.
and our children don't, right? Like my son would go to the ends of the earth for me because of how I raised them.
Right.
Being strict isn't being mean.
Right.
Having high expectations isn't being mean. You have to push them to become a better person than you are. That is my main goal as a father, and that's a hard one to get past too. Like even with my dad, we had a rough relationship growing up, and he beat himself up after years later, and I said, you know what though? I said, don't forget it that you may not have done everything that you set out to do as a dad, but I also learned from you what not to do, and that's just as valuable, right?
Right.
And he didn't like that very much at the moment when I said that to him,
Right.
but in the end, it makes sense, right? We give our kids all of our time,
Mhm.
right? And they see it, right? They know that. They may not see it when they're 7 because they're just a survival instinct animal at that time, right? They just feed me.
Right.
But in the end, once they get older, they start to see it, and sometimes it takes till they're 20, right?
Mhm. Yeah, or older.
Yeah,
Not that I
yeah,
have any experience with that. So,
yeah. Me neither, right?
uh, it's interesting because, what I tell people, I say that kids are very resilient, and
Yeah.
what I mean by that is that's not a license to be, bad or you're at your worst or whatever. That's not what I'm saying there. What I'm saying is kind of what you just said. You have far more good experiences. Many of them go under the radar because if you have enough of them, then that just becomes the norm.
Hmm.
And that's almost the expectation. And so if you have a negative experience, that's more out of the ordinary. And so it's a little bit easier to remember. Plus, I think, just as humans, we're naturally inclined to remember the negative things a little bit better than necessarily the positive things. But what I tell people, I'm like, there's a range of, let's say, undesired behavior from parents. We'll call it undesired, right?
Hmm.
And undesired just meaning it's not like we're not talking about abuse. We're not talking about, being mean spirited and all this other stuff. We're just talking about like maybe you scolded them and you were, a little bit too loud. Maybe you weren't listening as well as you should have this one time. Maybe you were a little bit impatient, nothing dramatic. And so what I tell people, I'm like, I think kids are resilient in the fact that if their experiences on net balance are positive and the negative experiences aren't dramatic, right? They're run of the mill stuff,
Hmm.
then the likelihood is extremely high that you will maintain a good relationship with your child. It's not a guarantee because people are still different, but it's extremely high. And
Hmm.
that, of course, again, that rules out, that excludes, very extreme behaviors. So if you're an otherwise good parent and then all of a sudden you punch your child in the face, I'm not going to be like, well, your kid's resilient,
Yeah.
he'll
Yeah.
like
He'll
that
bounce.
could actually, yeah, that could actually ruin
Oh,
a relationship with your child. But also, I think it's worth knowing your children because perhaps they may be more sensitive, and so something of a lesser degree could also really negatively impact the relationship. But I think generally speaking, kids are resilient, and what they just need is us to on net balance be good parents, and then what we need is to remember, hey, I am a good parent. I
yep.
could always improve,
Yep.
and that's how I look at it. Like, I'm a good dad. Not that I can't improve, not that I don't make my own mistakes, but I'm a good dad, and I'm sure that you are as well.
Yeah. And that's life, right? Like,
Right.
and even to a point of an example of, not being tip top, right? Like I've
Mhm.
been unfortunately struggling with sciatic nerve issues
Mhm.
for like the last 4 months or so. It's been pretty rough. I had a motorcycle trip out to Utah, and I was driving back, and I drove for like almost 1,200 miles,
Mhm.
and it came in, dude, and it has not gone away, and it's been just rough. And
You
it
just turned
snowed.
40.
Yeah, 41.
See, that's what it is.
Anyway, pretend not to be.
Right.
But I got home and it had snowed, and shoveling really aggravates it, right?
Mm.
And my
Mhm.
wife and my son were home, and I come walking in, and I'm like, "Well, nobody knows how to use a shovel around here," like it just it wasn't me, right?
Right.
And my son saw that, and like my wife and I had an argument about it. I mean, we don't scream and yell, but I've been trying to help her become a little more stand up for yourself,
Mhm.
and she did.
Right.
And so my wife and I had this discussion, and it kind of drug on. And finally, you just got to sweep it under the rug. Otherwise, you go to bed angry at each other is just the worst thing, as you may or may not know.
Mhm.
But the next day it snowed, and my son was out there shoveling before I even said anything. Right. Like, so you don't always do it perfectly, right? But
Right.
if you're a good parent and you're a good parent daily, um, those moments where you're like, oh, nobody knows how you just trouble, or get all grumpy, they see it and they'll
Hmm.
respond, and it could have gone the wrong way, but my son knows on a regular basis he's going to catch the good dad,
Hmm.
right? Like, I'm not a excuse me, but I'm not a dick every day, right? And
Right.
when you are, it's like somebody who screams at their child all the time. Well, guess what? That's normal, right?
Right.
So they're just going to respond in a way that doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, there's some, oh, that's just the normal. But
Hmm.
I heard a comedian one time. It was pretty hilarious. I don't remember who it was, but he's like, yeah, me and my brothers were acting up, being jerks, blah 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 blah. And my dad came home and he just whoa, got super mad and enraged, and he walks down the hallway and just starts punching holes in every door on the way down the hallway, freaking out. And he's like, we all were just like, oh, and he put the fear of God into us. And then we found out later in life he was going to replace the doors anyway. Like, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, you don't even have to hurt them, but kids got to have a little bit of fear, unfortunately, of their parent. They don't have to fear you, but you know what I mean? There has to be
Right.
that authority figure, right?
Right.
Like, um, so I guess that's you don't have to be perfect, but do your best all the time. Be that 90% good.
Hmm.
And when you do make a mistake, they're not going to hold on to that.
Right. So let's shift gears and talk about
Yeah,
your podcast that you'll be
sure.
starting. And if you're willing, you can tell
Yeah, yeah.
about your podcast studio that apparently you just recently finished.
Yeah.
So tell us all about this.
I don't know, about a month ago or so, I'm in a group called Gain with Mark K. I got affiliated with it through the internet randomly. I've been kind of praying on life and figuring out what I want to do next, because construction I'm not going to stick with forever. Like I said, it tears you down. My dad always said once.
Oh no. Oh no, he froze again. No. Did and somebody in the comments, did I hear him say Mark K? Like that's not the same Mark K from here in Jacksonville, is it? I don't know. We'll find out. I don't think it is, but it could be. You never know. So he does have a podcast, and I think he has some other side hustles. So we'll find out, or maybe it was somebody else. Um, but he is frozen right now. He will come back, and we will get him in here. All right, sir, you're
I don't know
back.
what's going on. All right, it
Yeah,
must be the cold, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's like I say, right now it's negative 26 degrees, and then wind chill of like negative 40. So
right.
that's pretty awesome.
That's
Anyway,
intense.
yeah. So I started. Like I said, I've been praying about what I'm supposed to do next. We're planning on moving out to Montana this year, and I didn't really want to bring my business with me. Not to say that I couldn't be a handyman or something
Hmm.
out there in the beginning, but um, I'm starting over, man, and I'm all right with that. I've done it a couple times. I'm ready to
Right.
turn the page, new chapter, and so I randomly got a message from Mark K and dipped my toe into this idea of the podcast world. I've
Mm,
never done it before, but I've always loved talking to people. I've always enjoyed hearing their stories. Like, when I'm your carpenter, we sit and sometimes I might talk a little too much.
mhm.
It's just kind of the way I am. But I enjoy knowing the person's story that I'm working with. So anyway, these random events kind of occurred, and I'm like, all right, this is it. I think this is the path I'm supposed to go down. So I'm still doing my current job every single day, still running bids and doing the
Mhm.
thing because I got to make money. But on my free time, I change my schedule. I wake up early. I work on this. I work on my other business, and now I'm working towards doing my podcast, Adam Maxwell's Undivided, finding faith, clarity through faith and adventure. I want to bring people together, man, because the world's a little wacky as we know right now. I think there's just too much. Everybody's overstimulated all the time, and they need to get out there and touch some grass.
Mhm.
So I
Snow
want
in your
to.
case.
Yeah, 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 but I love snow, except for these temperatures.
Right.
I'm an avid snowboarder. My family, we all snowboard. I
Oh,
taught
fun.
my wife and my son in the same year, which was rough, but it was worth every second. And so that's another reason moving out west. So back to it. I started working with Mark K in their group gain, and it's I've got classes and it's down the checklist because sure I could have done it alone, but I'd have been walking around lost for a year before I really got my feet grounded underneath me. I'm
Hmm.
sure you probably have an idea what that feels like, maybe, maybe
Hmm.
not.
Oh yeah.
And so I started one idea and I found that it was a little more aggressive than I wanted to be. And so I want to, like I say, undivided. I want to bring people together. I want to reach the fringes, talk about faith, talk about people's lives, how they came to faith, how they're not a part of it. I mean,
Hmm.
there's two sides to every story, right? And I'm not here to try to drag you into religion. I'm not here to try to tell you that you're doing it wrong. I want to hear what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and
Right.
and share that because maybe we have more in common than you think, right? And I think that that's where we've lost our hope and our faith in some cases in today's world. So I want to interview people from clergy to first responders, police officers. I want
Hmm.
veterans, normal everyday people, my friends, my enemies. Who cares, right? And just try to open up that dialogue between people because I know that it needs to happen. I think that everybody knows that. I'm a part of a group called the Adventuremen's Guild, and they drew me into the adventure side of life. I always was a little adventurous, but what was it, 2019? A friend of mine asked me, "Hey, Adam, do you want to ride a mini bike through the mountains?" I was like, "Oh, you bet I do." And so we got these. They have this thing called the Great American Monkey 1000, and we ride. Um, so they're replica Honda CT70s. They're like 1969, 1970 CT70s. You can also ride real ones too, but they're a carbureted motorcycle. And the first journey was through the mountains of Colorado. And we started in Eagle, Colorado, and we traveled 1,000 kilometers through the mountains. It was the most incredible and awe-inspiring thing that I've ever done in my entire life. And so every other year we do it still. So it's Colorado, and then we did Montana, and we just got back this last year, my sciatica,
Hmm.
from Moab, Utah area, and talk about the craziest landscape you've ever seen. But I want people to get out there, man. I'm moving out west. I want to do videos out there and show the world what's really out there. It's not just your computer and you or your phone and you. Go out and have fun, detach a little bit, and start talking to each other, man.
Hmm.
I mean, if you see somebody that looks like they're not having a good day, ask them how they're doing. I mean,
Right.
and if they don't want to talk to you, they'll tell you, right? Like, or they'll show you one of the two, and you just, all right, well, sorry I bothered, right?
Right.
It's like petting that dog and it, barks at you instead of
Hmm.
saying hello, right? So, um, the adventure part of it is really taken my heart. And when I was out in Colorado, I was a devout atheist all the way up until Colorado. Big bang, all that. And like I say, you can believe your beliefs, and I will believe mine, and we can respect that. But I had a moment out there where I found clarity, and it was through adventure. And if I wouldn't have taken that risk and gone and done that thing, I'd still be mulling around in my own head, uh, wondering what is the purpose of life. And
Right.
and at this point, I don't really have to worry too much about it. So, like I say, the undivided is just to try to do that exact thing, right? Take this division and get rid of it because it's getting too loud out there, I think.
It is. It is. Going back to Mark K, I want to point out, I don't know, you may not know this, but Mark K is here in Jacksonville.
Sure,
And he actually was on the show, episode 485
I
for
watched
Dad
it.
Talk as well. Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
had to see what I was in for. Is
Right.
this guy
And
gonna grill me
so,
or?
yeah, no, he's a good guy. I like him. I'm not in his program because I just simply have enough on my plate as it is.
Yep.
And then talking about your ride, there is in the mountains of Tennessee, and then North Carolina. There is an area called
Tail of the
uh,
Dragon.
Tail of the Dragon. Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
now you might be thinking, "Oh, DL, you rode that on a motorcycle?" No, me and some friends rode it on a bicycle.
Oh,
Yeah, so we did it for
sounds
3
more
years.
dangerous than a
Yes,
motorcycle even.
probably, perhaps. And so when I first moved to Jacksonville, so my wife and I met in North Carolina, and she was working for the railroad at a satellite facility. And then she got an opportunity to get a new position, which brought her to Jacksonville. And so then I followed her. And when I came down, the company I worked for did not have a facility down here. So what I did was to say, well, I'm going to shift gears because you were talking about like changes
Hmm.
in life, even later in life. So at about 35 years old, I said, I'm going to go from working in warehousing to web development. So like an entirely different change.
Yeah, big
And so
time.
I came down and I said, I'm going to spend a year just kind of studying because I don't really know enough to get a job just yet. And because of all that, I did not have a vehicle because I had a company vehicle for like the last like 10 years or something like that. And so I only had a bicycle. And so we had one car, one bicycle. And so I would just cycle everywhere. And then
Yeah,
I started getting into it more and more. And then some friends up in Ohio were like, hey, we're getting into cycling. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And they were avid motorcyclists.
sure.
So they said, let's go to the Tail of the Dragon. We go there all the time. This time we're going to ride on our bicycles. There's an event called the Cherahalla Challenge. And so the first 2 years, we did the 65-mile route, which was brutal
Oh, I'm sure.
because I live in Florida and it's flat.
Yeah, yeah,
Like our even well, we don't have hills, but even like a big bridge would be just like a nice hill.
right.
So it's hard to train for it. And we ended up cycling the 65-mile route twice the first 2 years. The third year we got, jumpy. We're like, we're going to do the whole 115 miles. And I think I got to like mile 72 before I was just like, there is no more gas here. There's
Yeah,
nothing left.
yeah, I can only
So,
imagine. Yeah,
but it was
no,
a lot of fun.
bicycle therapy, I call it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get to live in the moment, and that's kind of similar with, riding motorcycle.
Mhm.
I've got a Honda Africa Twin as well, and I hope in the next couple of years to do like not a complete like cross country tour, but
Mhm.
something. I've got a couple of buddies that are involved in the Adventuremen's Guild that live up in Alaska that said that they would love to join and let them know when it's happening. We're gonna cruise, and I hope to document it all and share that with the world too. There's a million people doing stuff like that, but sometimes it just
But you're
takes the
going to be
right
the
person.
best.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I gotta be
So,
right. Like, and that's the thing is, doing this and going after this, I've got to try with everything I've got.
mhm,
Because if I don't, I'm going to fail. And if I don't have the support of my family, I'm going to fail.
mhm.
And so if I don't give it all, how do I have support, right?
Right.
And so
Now,
like
are you planning to do a video or audio only?
I'm planning to do video. I'm just like I said, I'm just getting into it about ankle deep at the moment.
Mhm.
I released my first trailer on Spotify, and it just kind of explains what my mission statement really is and what we're trying to do. But I think I'm going to start with audio right away, and then I'm going to work my way into video. Um, I just got to obviously make sure I have a good.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He is he is frozen again. So and I don't know, folks. It sounded like he was about to say, I got to make sure I have a good internet connection right as he froze. So I think that would be kind of funny if that's what he was aiming for. But as soon as he unfreezes, we'll get him back in here. I'm actually looking up to see if we could find his Spotify channel. And if we can find his Spotify channel, maybe we'll play the trailer for it. So, but it looks like he's back. So let's get him in here.
I'm
All
back.
right. Yep, you're back. Were you getting ready to say, I gotta make sure I have a good internet connection?
Yeah, seriously, I said it out loud, man. I was like,
Oh,
"Good
that's
grief!"
hysterical.
And your face is like it was frozen in time. I was like,
That's
"Good."
too funny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So,
you said you have, while you're talking, you said you released something on Spotify.
yes, sir. Yeah, I sure did.
How can I find it and maybe we can play the trailer for it?
The easiest way at the moment would be go to my website. It's I am
Mhm.
undivided.com.
Yep.
And then at the top, there's a button right above, like, it's a super simple page.
Smash
It
for
allows you,
podcast or for
yep,
Spotify?
smash for podcast. And then as you scroll down, it'll just show the mission statement of what I'm trying to accomplish. And then obviously the hyperlinks to all my other social medias, which are they're beginnings, right? So I'm working on getting better at it. And then there's also a fun little video from our last trip out to Moab, Utah,
Hmm.
that I put down in the bottom of it for people to kind of just see how pretty it is out there.
Right. So let's see if we can't put it up on the screen for you.
Yeah,
I think I can do this. Let's see. There we go. And I believe it's this one. Boom. And then let me know if you can hear it. Kind of give me a nod or something that we'll play it here real quick. It's about a minute and a half.
I'm not hearing it.
Oh, you're not? Okay. I am. Let me see. And it doesn't seem to be playing now. Oh, that's weird. Like now I'm not hearing it. Okay. Well,
It's
any
on there.
yeah, it's
So
it's on there. No worries, folks. We gave it the good old college try, and it simply did not work out. And that's just the way it goes. But make sure, and I'll put it up on the screen here for you, folks. If you can scan the QR code, you can go to iamundivided.com, and you can check it out, and then look forward to all his upcoming episodes, and check out his trailer as well. So apologies that we weren't able to play it, but things are the way they are. All right, so you're going to be doing some video, and you're going to be documenting, like going out, basically touching grass, check out these mountains. Here's this experience. You're going to bring on people to share their experiences.
yep.
Um, when do you think that you're going to like kick it off? Like, when's your pilot or your first episode coming?
I'm hoping within about the next 30 days to get some episodes recorded, and then because of my sciatic nerve issue,
Hmm.
I'm going to be going in for surgery,
Hmm.
unfortunately, April 2nd. And then I have 12 weeks of you can't lift nothing.
Mm.
So that'll give me 12 weeks to really bust my hump on this thing and get some stuff done. So I hope that in the next 30 days to get at least my first couple of podcasts. I want to release it weekly
Hmm.
to begin with, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. But I plan to do it video and then be able to like split it off to Spotify for audio as well, right?
Hmm.
And so that it's available in all sorts of places. So about 30 days or so is what I'm giving myself, and then we're gonna take off from there, and uh, hopefully it's like a rocket.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. All right. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you really were hoping to talk about?
Um, No, I think I mean, I think that being a dad is it can be one of the greatest things in the world. I think that there is definitely um, room for everybody to improve.
Hmm.
Every dad out there, just take the life by the horns. Make sure your kid knows that you're there, even if it's difficult. We're meant to be the shield for our children. We're meant to give our piece of our puzzle to them so that they can grow.
Hmm.
And if you're not doing that, maybe you should start. And if you are doing that, you can always do better, because we are going to slip up, we are going to make mistakes, and that's just human, and that's okay. But I want to see more fathers being more engaged. Everything from just helping them with their homework, even though you don't maybe know how to do their math, just sitting there helping them. They know, right, that you
Right.
care. You can be dumb together. That's okay too, right?
Right.
And just work towards betterment of the family, and step towards faith a little deeper, whatever that may be for you, and just try to live a better and more healthy existence on the planet. We get to do this one time, they say, so why waste it?
Right. I agree. One last question for you.
Yes,
This
sir.
popped up. What are some fun things that you like to do with your boys? Kind of end us on that positive note.
So, like I said, we are a snowboarding family, and my older boy, he skis. He learned to ski living with his mom, right? And so I tried to get him to snowboard, but he's reluctant to do so. It's
Mm.
starting over. But snowboarding is huge for us. I also like to coach baseball, youth baseball. So I coach my son, I sponsor and coach my son's team. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but you know
Mhm.
what? You don't have to be.
Right.
They're just kids, right? So I just enjoy doing that, and then just trying to go and go hiking, and like for instance, like Christmas is instead of buying a bunch of presents, we plan family adventures, right? Like later on in the year, or even in the wintertime, again, because we do have snow sports that we like to do. But, just going out and doing things with them and laughing with them and having a good time and putting a band-aid on their injuries, even though, the world can be dangerous, it doesn't mean that you got to avoid it either. So, just getting out there and shoveling the driveway together.
Right.
Like my little one, my younger boy, when he was a little guy, like he was the most dedicated shoveler you could have ever met in your entire life. He loved it. Like, because I showed him, I'm like, this is fun, like
Right.
joking around. He took the bait,
Right.
and he always loved to shovel with me. I mean, it can be mundane too, right?
Mhm.
And that's one thing a person told me, because when I had Preston every other weekend, um, I was trying to go and do this and do that, these big things, right? All the time, this big stuff. But sometimes just sitting on the curb counting cars is
Mhm.
the memory they're going to remember.
Mm.
It's not always that big thing going to Valley Fair, even though he'll never forget going to, Valley Fair and eating a hot dog after he just rode the roller coaster 6 times. He literally turned green and threw up in a trash
Oh,
can. He'll
wow.
never forget that. You know
Right.
what I mean? But it's the small memories, right?
Right.
It's the stuff that you don't think they're going to remember. I mean, think back of your memories with your
Mhm.
parents. Think back of the things that you really truly are like, oh yeah, I remember when we just did that thing, right? And it
Mhm.
wasn't anything spectacular, but the internet always is telling us you got to do big, awesome, right? Like every time you're on there, it's like, look at this. I drove, bought $1 million car and destroyed it. Like, how dumb. Like life doesn't have to be that.
Mhm.
It can be going on a bike ride,
Right.
walking down to the park. I don't know, but just make sure you're doing stuff with your kids, because you only get this one time. And I don't remember what it is, but I think by the time they're like 12 years old, you spend 50 or 60% of the time that you're going to spend with your child for the
Hmm.
rest of their life. I think it's something along that. Don't quote me. It's around that, but it's the majority of their time by they're 12 years old that you're going to spend with your kid.
Mm.
So
Wow.
don't waste it when they're young, even though they're sometimes annoying. Just go back to when you were a kid. Do the things that make you happy.
Awesome. Yep. And the small things add up in
They sure do.
everything, right?
Yep.
A
Yep.
dollar here, a dollar there eventually
Hmm.
adds up. And a few minutes here and a few minutes there, they add up as
Yeah.
well.
I've got 10 minutes, right? That was another motto I forgot. I tell myself I've got 10 minutes for him, right?
Mhm.
Even if I am busy as hell and I'm running around like a fool, and my son's like, "Hey, Dad, you want to play Madden?" And I don't really play video games, but I have 10 minutes. I would
Mhm.
go give him 10 minutes of my time, and it usually turns into longer than that. But
Right.
give your kid 10 minutes, and it'll change their life.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Adam, for joining me this
Yeah, man.
morning. And once again, folks, you can go check out Adam at iamundivided.com. You can check out his website. Go ahead and go ahead and use the QR code there that's up on the screen. For those listening on, like, say, Spotify, iTunes, or whatnot, again, it's iamundivided.com. His name is Adam Maxwell. Check him out. He's got a new podcast coming up. He's going to tell you all about his adventures in life and then hopefully inspire you to make some of your own adventures. Adam, I'm going to put you backstage. If you want to
Yes,
stick
sir.
around, you can.
Thank you
If
so
you got to
much.
go, that I understand that as well. But again, thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, folks, that wraps up my show for today. Hope you were inspired by Adam's conversation, by my conversation with Adam. Whether you're watching live, come back, or whether you're watching later, please drop us a comment. Just let us know what your thoughts were. Did we miss anything? Were you curious about something? Maybe you just want to give us praise for delivering such a good podcast. Whatever the case is, we're all ears. But with that being said, I am out for today, and I will see you once again Monday morning with a fresh, brand new